Okay, so today in the hairstyling class, we're going to be working on foil highlights, partials, in the form of chunks. Chunky highlights are something that are more specialized and not very many people ask for, but it's good for students to know how to do. I always recommend, no matter what style of highlights you're doing, that you do a chunky weave at the front, because if you do a chunk at the front, a slice even, but especially if it's a chunk, you'll really see the regrowth coming in. So chunky weave, just to review, looks like this. There's a lot of space in between, and the pieces that you're going to be coloring are also large. Although I like students to do it right on the hairline, I also always remind them that they need to be shallow with the section and not go too deep in, because the more you try to put in the foil, the further away from the scalp you're going to be, and that's the whole point of going to the hairline like that, is to get as close as possible. Press down fairly hard so that you get a nice flat surface, and to get the foil in place, switch position. And then paint the ends. Fold it up, meet your edges as closely as you can, smooth it, score it, fold it. And then I'm going to fold a second time to keep the foil out of the person's face. Now you're going to take a regular sized slice in between. And here's where we're going to begin the chunks. Now I usually like to show the first one how not to do it, because a lot of people think that, well, you want a chunky piece of color, so why not just take the section that you want and put the foil underneath? Well, this is why. What happens is you're so far away from the scalp because you can't get in close enough. So what you need to do instead is 3 back-to-back slices. So regular size slices, but back-to-back, no spaces in between. Sometimes foils are irregular like this. If they are, you need to repair it before you move on to the next one. Because if I folded that up, that would mean the color is sitting against here. I'm just going to do a little patch job there, which works fine. Okay, and now I'm going to do the second in the series of 3 slices to do my back-to-back effect. And here's where the precision is really important, because if your section is not even this way and you don't have nice even slices, it'll really be obvious because you're doing a larger surface of color. This is my last of this chunk. there's the first chunk, those 3 right there. And then later on, when students become more adept at guessing, they can eyeball it and say, okay, this is the chunk that I'm going to now leave out. But until they do become adept at that, I ask that they do just count it out like this, 3 slices. 1, 2, 3, and then you can be sure that you're getting it as accurate as possible. Okay, so I've left a larger space in between. Now I'm going to do a second chunk, 3 slices. Okay, so there's my second chunk. Now I'm starting to approach the crown. So I probably wouldn't want to put another chunk, because if I left out the space here, put another chunk here, there'd have to be a big chunk going across like this. And what we want when we approach the crown is for the hair, for the color to fall naturally around like this. So what I'm going to do now is go back to chunky weaves with regular spacing in between. And just 2 chunks on the top is plenty. It actually gives a good effect. So in a regular size section, which should be about 3 inches wide, you should be able to get 4 weaves, and not too many more than that, because then you're going into a medium size rather than a chunky weave. Okay, so now I've come to the end of the top section. For the sides, it's going to be like what you did with the slices. So always take a little buffer zone at the top. Just a skinny little subsection, about half of what you normally would take. And then we're going to do horizontal subsections and a chunky weave. Okay, so for the purposes of keeping this video as short as possible, I'm going to stop with this one because it's just more of the same now. So you'll work your way down to the bottom of this panel. Try your best to finish off with a weave at the very bottom by the ear. So in other words, you'll work your way down and do your best to put one right there so that when the client puts their hair up, the color will be visible. Okay? And then the same on the other side. Thank you.